Hello coaches, I'm Anthony Sinusuka Ginting, national badminton player from Indonesia. Please welcome renowned sport performance consultant and mindset coach Allistair McCaw to the stage. This session is on developing a culture of excellence and the key factors for creating an elite environment. Enjoy!
All right, good afternoon. I thought I'd wear white today so you could just see me in the background. I had blue and black on this morning before I left the hotel, and I thought, well, probably no one's going to see me, so I put on a white shirt. Before it gets away from me, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who's attended the conference this weekend and this whole week. It's been an incredible organization. There's too many people to thank. I'd hate to individually thank the organization and forget one person, but I just want to thank everybody from BWF for putting this amazing event together. Also to you, the coaches who've invested in your time, invested in your knowledge. There's no better investment in the world than making it in yourself. So let's give a round of applause to the organization, everybody involved. So thank you. So we're on to the final presentation of the weekend, and this is about driving culture. It's one of my passions. Leadership, culture, and mindset are my three greatest passions. I was asked yesterday, some of the best conversations are usually right next door while you're having a cup of coffee or tea or a sandwich. Those are the best conversations you can have. And someone asked me, you were involved in high-performance sports and working on the professional tennis tour and squash tour and golf, etc., why you stopped working as a performance coach and changed over to leadership, culture, and mindset. And to be honest with you, it wasn't such a major change. I'm still involved in high-level sports. I'm still involved with coaches, leaders, etc. But I've always believed that you need to wake up with passion, with doing something that you enjoy. I believe in the 3 Ps. Is to find something that you're passionate about, to find something that gives you purpose, and to find something that you get paid for. If you're able to combine those 3 things, your passion, your purpose, and you're paid for it, because we obviously have to make a living in life, then you've hit the jackpot. Now, finding your purpose doesn't necessarily mean that you wake up every day and you're super excited about what you do. There's certain things that I do that I don't particularly enjoy, but you're not going to find a job or a career where everything is perfect. It's almost like a relationship, right? That person that you're looking for is probably not going to score 10 out of 10 in everything that you're looking for. It's impossible. I believe that if you enjoy your job, if you enjoy what you do 80% of the time, then you're in a good place. I'll say that again. If you enjoy where you work, what you do, 80% of the time, you're in a good place. Because let me start with this. There is no perfect culture. Right? If you're looking for the perfect culture, it does not exist. Having been over 30 years visiting some of the best cultures in the world, from corporate to sports, education, law enforcement in over 35 countries, I've yet to walk in to the perfect culture where everything is perfect. Because where there is human beings involved, there's always going to be changing dynamics, emotions, challenges going on. You don't know what you're going to walk into tomorrow, right? If you work with 10 people, there can be 10 people there where one of them is just won the jackpot. One of them has maybe lost their cat or their dog. There's so many different emotions and dynamics going on. Okay? I'd like to start by telling you a story about the old coffee cup and the old newspaper. Now, when Toto Wolff, the principal of Mercedes-Benz Formula One team, walked into the offices in Brackley of the Mercedes-Benz team to take over the company, this was back in 2013. He was sitting waiting in the reception. And in the reception was an old coffee cup and an old newspaper. When the reception said, Wolf, Ross Brawn will see you now. Ross Brawn was the previous head principal of Mercedes-Benz Formula One team. Toto went up to the office, and after a few formalities of saying hi and how are the family and how are things, he said to Ross, you know, Ross, your reception doesn't look like a Formula One team. To which Ross said, well, an old coffee cup and a newspaper won't make a motor car go faster. It's the engineers that make the car go faster. To which Wolf replied, you're wrong. It's the attitude that makes the team succeed and makes the car go faster. You see, Wolf is all about the small details. What he saw waiting in that reception was all about the standards of the organization. Especially in the high-octane world of Formula One, where the difference between first place and 20th place can be less than 1 second. That. Right? If we look at the grid and any Formula One fans there, they'll know that the top 6 or top 8 cars are less than half a second divided over a 3 or 4 kilometer circuit. That's insane. If you want to look at a sport where the small details matter, look no further than Formula One. In fact, Toto Wolff didn't even come from a motorsports background. He came from a finance background. So here was somebody coming into a world that was completely different to his. Right? He was working with bankers and financial agents and advisors and investors into a world of motorsports. In the beginning, when he entered that arena, the other motorsport principals said, who's this guy? What does he think he knows? But what Toto Wolff had, and what he still has, was a drive for high standards and attention to the small details. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about when it comes to the small details. So there's 24 races a year on the Formula One circuit, right? That's 24 countries. They travel with a team of over 100 people to each race. You can imagine traveling on airlines, staying in hotels, being around so many thousands of people on a weekly basis. It's pretty hard to stay healthy. But Toto needs a healthy team to succeed. So being the leader he is, instead of hiring one hygiene manager, he hired 2 to make sure that the bathrooms and the facilities at Mercedes were spotless. In fact, maybe you could call him a little bit of a control freak, which where he actually himself, the team principal, showed the hygiene manager and the cleaners how he wanted the bathrooms cleaned, where he exactly wanted the soap dispenser, where he wanted the tissues. What about washing your hands, but then you touch the doorknob so you would have the sensor to open the door? Small details. Why did he do this? Because he needed a healthy team. And at the end of the season, they found that the Mercedes team were the healthiest team out of all 10 teams in Formula One. Small details. I'll give you another example of attention to the small details. Was John Wooden, the UCLA basketball coach. When you joined John Wooden's team at the beginning of the season, do you know what the first lesson was? It was how to tie your shoelaces. Now, can you imagine playing for the great John Wooden, and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to get so much information from this incredible coach, the world's most famous coach in basketball. He's going to show us so many screens and so many plays and so many incredible things. And he says, gentlemen, I'd like to show you how to tie your shoelaces. You'd be like, what? I signed up for this? Why was that? Because John believed that if you didn't tie your shoelaces properly, what would happen in the last minute of a game if there was a 3-pointer or a 1-point difference and your shoelace came undone? Small details. I'll give you one more from John Wooden. He showed his players how to put their socks on. Why? Because when your socks sweat, they crinkle, they roll, which happens, or what happens is blisters. He couldn't afford to have players miss games, miss practices. What if he needed them in the Final Four, in the final of the NCAA championships, and a player had a blister? The small details. But getting back to Toto Wolff and the culture that they run at Mercedes, he believes the difference of being able to win 8 championships, unprecedented 8 championships in a row with Mercedes-Benz, came down to the culture that they built and the high standards they drove. Now you can just imagine how many people when he came in thought he was absolutely crazy. Who have we hired? This person from a totally different industry to run a world-class motorsports team. And this is something I believe, is that you don't necessarily need to know the industry. When you surround yourself with people who know it better than you, you're onto something. But great leadership, somebody like Toto could run a football team, could run a corporate business, could run a bank, could run any team. Why? Because he has the leadership skills. And every single one of us has that ability. It's not what you do, right? It's not the fact that he's working in a motorsports team, it's his leadership and his consistency to drive high standards. One more thing about Toto is he calls your culture is your immune system. Because when things get tough, how strong is your immunity to fight back on those things? And I believe the strength of a great culture is not revealed in the good times and when you're winning and you see the champions with the trophies. The true strength of your culture at your academy, at your organization, at your club comes down to when things are going wrong, when there's challenges, when there's difficulties. Then your true strength of your culture is shown. You want to know the companies and organizations that succeeded and thrived through COVID were the ones that already had a good culture before COVID. Because COVID came at us like that, like a tornado. We weren't prepared. The ones who succeeded were the ones who had a great culture already and had great leadership. COVID showed us universally who the great leaders were and who the poor leaders were. In politics, in business, in sports, in all these different arenas. Right? It's almost having to write an exam that you didn't prepare for and you didn't see coming. How well do you know what you do? So first things first. It all starts and ends with leadership. If you don't have strong leadership, then you don't stand a chance of succeeding as an organization or as a culture. It all starts at the top. The example has to start there. As I just mentioned about Toto Wolff, he said, no job is too small or big for me. I will clean the restrooms if I have to. I will pick up trash that's not mine, rubbish on the floor that's not mine. I will do all these things. Because that's what it means to be a leader. It all starts at the top. Second thing is you're only as good as your people. You can have an incredible product, right? But if you don't have the right people, the right coaches, the right management, the right support team, trainers, all these things, then you won't be as successful as you can be. So you're only as good as your people. Something I've seen traveling and seeing the best coaches in the world is that they have great people around them. We heard yesterday with Jurgen Klopp, the former Liverpool coach, talk about, I find people that are smarter than me and surround myself with those people. You've got to have humility for that. We know that leadership sometimes can come with ego. But do you have enough humility to say, I don't know that, but I can find out for you, or I have somebody that's better in that department than I am? That's what strong leadership is. Strong leadership is not about knowing it all. It's about surrounding yourself with great people. That's one of the commonalities I've seen around the world with all the great coaches and leaders, is that they always have a strong support system. And that's a lesson for life as well. Right? Is you're only going to be as successful as the people you surround yourself with in life. When I speak at colleges and universities and high schools, I always say to the young people, the two most important decisions you'll make in your life is the people you surround yourself with and the environment that you choose to be in. The people you surround yourself with and the environment you choose to be in. And then the third one is, we can talk about a culture of excellence or a winning culture. But you have to first define what that looks like. There's so many buzzwords when it comes to culture. Everybody works somewhere in a club or an academy or whatever it may be. There is a culture already existing there. Maybe some of you might remember what I said yesterday of a culture is nothing more than an experience. How was your experience at the conference? How was your experience at XYZ Academy last week? Your culture is an experience. Your culture is about your people. But if you want to have a culture of excellence, you have to have clarity of what that looks like. Right? So you have to define that first. Just talking about it is not going to give you a great culture. You have to define what that's about. And we're going to talk about a few of those things right now. So the first one is define your culture. And I'm not sure why that last point comes up last. But anyway, you've seen the last point. The first one is, what kind of culture do you want? So I'm going to give you two simple examples. Do you want a culture of development, great relationships? You're developing not just the player, but you're developing the person as well? Or do you want a win at all costs culture? Well, you will do whatever it takes. You'll cheat, you'll lie, you'll do everything, but you want to win. You have to define what culture you want. Yes, everybody wants a winning culture. Okay? But do you want a culture that thrives, that builds relationships, that builds the person, that builds the player, that's a place that you have an enjoyable experience? Or do you want what I would call a toxic culture where it's win at all costs? Define what culture you want. What kind of people do we need for this culture? So first of all, to find the right people, you have to define what culture you have or you want. If you want a win at all costs culture, then find coaches and people who are aligned with win at all costs. They don't care what it takes. They don't care what relationships they break down. They don't care how they behave. They just want to win. Or do you want a culture on this side where you're developing players, you're developing people. You do want to win, of course. That is the goal. And your goal is to find the people that align with those values and vision. And then what is our long-term vision and purpose? Why are we here? Are we developing champions for the future? Are we working more on developing recreational players? Are we just an elite performance academy and club? So define exactly where you are. The fact is that you're an elite club or working with high-level players doesn't mean that there's no other recreational or youth or whatever, okay? But most of your attention is on the elite bracket. Most of your time is there. Or on the other hand, like I said, if you're working with more recreational youth, it doesn't mean that there's not high-level players there. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's not like one or the other. But there an identity in a club and an academy is with who are we? We are a club with strong values that develop young players. Who are we? We are a club that just want to win. Like I said, there's no wrong or right. That's your choice, your decision, okay? And don't get me wrong, we all want to win, we all want to succeed. I've never run into an athlete or spoken to a coach of saying, I don't mind losing. That's not a champion mentality, okay? In fact, I remember being at a conference. It was a banking conference in South Africa 2 years ago where the CEO stepped up, Jeanette Murray. She's an incredible leader. And she said, I don't know about you, but I didn't wake up today to be second. I was like, that's a champion culture, right? And they follow with good values. They follow with good principles. They follow with good standards. And then identity. Who are we? If I was to walk up to you right now and you'd say, hi, I'm Mary from ABC Academy, and I'd say, who are you? What is your identity at your club? Would you be able to answer that question? So these are very, very, important things to have clarity on. Number 2 of the 7 principles of creating a culture of excellence is your values and standards. And I apologize that these are coming up at different angles, but let's start from the top. We'll put them all up like that. Nope, we'll go back. Doing good today, huh? Number 1, the simpler, the better. Now, what do I mean by the simpler, the better? Is when you have values and standards, and when you have too many, people don't remember them. Think about the best slogans in the world, the best phrases. Just do it. I don't even have to say who the company is. Let's try this one. Think different. That's Apple. Let's try this one. I'm loving it. Anybody? McDonald's. Yep. How about the best or nothing? Anybody? Mercedes. You can remember those, right? Even I can remember those. Standing up on stage, I can remember 4 slogans of a company. So what I'm saying here is, when you define your values and your standards, keep them simple so people remember them. Giving somebody a book this thick saying, there's our values and standards. no one's going to remember that. No one's going to want to read that. So what I'm saying to coaches, leaders, is when you have values or standards, make it no more than, say, 4 or 5. Remember what I said yesterday about coaching? Just 2 things, 2 bits of information is enough at a time to give an athlete, especially when they're competing. And by the way, I loved the presentation before where she was speaking about is identify your strengths as a player. Coaches, that's very, very important for your players to know, and maximize those strengths. The same goes for your culture as well. I always believe in racket sports, to be world class, this is my opinion, is that you need 2 strengths that stand out to be a world class racket player. Tennis, squash, pickleball, padel, badminton, I don't care what it is. You need 2 strengths. If you look especially at the sport of tennis, most players will have 2 standout strengths. In the male game, it's usually the serve and the forehand, first ball forehand. That's usually the case, right? Your strengths could be speed. Your strengths could be fitness, endurance. It could be you just have weapons where you overpower, etc. But identify those strengths. I know that's to do with more the athlete side, but I just wanted to add that in because with the previous presentation with Huan and the Olympic silver medalist, you have to identify those strengths. Know what matters to you. Don't go onto the internet and just go copy and paste someone else's successful values and standards. Know what matters to you. What is it? Respect is important maybe for you. Honesty is important. Time management is important. Integrity is important. Identify what matters to you. Okay? And understand, it's nice to have it up on the wall. And I'm sure there's some people here where you have your values up on your wall. But values are not for decoration. They're for doing. There's a difference between decoration and doing. Yes, it's good to have reminders up on the wall, but you need to live those. I can most of the time visit an organization or a club and tell the culture within 5 minutes. Quickly, I can tell it. I can say good culture, poor culture. Let me give you an example of a good culture, a great culture. There's 2 actually. Paris Saint-Germain, right? I was just there on Wednesday and I've done some work with them in the previous years. Is a culture of excellence, especially with their new coach, 3 years, Luis Enrique. They just drive standards of excellence. The values are up on the walls. They live those values through the corridors. Another one was Benfica, the football team in Portugal. When I went there, usually it's quite intimidating. I got to the gate and the person knew my name. And I was like, how did they know my name? I've never been here. I'm a visitor, right? Because they'd done their work. They had a picture of me at the gate where they identified and they go, welcome, Allistair. And I'm like, wow, okay, that's a nice start. When I walked into the facility, they also have the youth there. And they have this standard that you don't walk past somebody without saying hello or shaking hands. Right? You might think, oh, well, wow. Now, obviously, if you've seen the person already this morning, you don't have to do it every time you walk past them. But they have a rule that when you walk into a room or you walk past in the corridor, you say hello or you shake hands if you haven't seen that person that day yet. Small little standards that make a massive difference. I'll say it again. Your culture is your people. Your culture is not your building. Your culture is your people. What are your standards of excellence? What are they? Identify what those are. And then you can never over-communicate them enough. I speak to a lot of organizations and clubs, etc., where they have like one meeting at the beginning of the season and then that's it. Nobody remembers 1 week afterwards what was said in the meeting. You need to continually remind people of what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. You need to endorse what's good and enforce what's not good every single time. We all want a great culture at our club and our academy and wherever we work. But that just doesn't happen. Leaders, you need to continually keep reminding your team. Someone that I spoke about yesterday that I got to spend a lot of time with was Coach K at Duke Basketball and the Olympic American basketball coach. Now, I could stand here for 3 hours and give you a lot of stories of success and what I've seen in that time, but I'm going to give you his the 5 standards that he looked at mostly. The first one was constantly consider your people and your team. So that's what leadership does, is you take care of your people. Coach K was constantly thinking, what do my assistant coaches need? What do my youth coaches need? What does my admin team need? What does my marketing team need? He was constantly thinking about his team, right? when it comes to the retail industry and the service industry, the better you take care of your staff, the better they take care of the customers and the client. Okay? An unhappy staff won't make a happy customer. They're just going to relay that bad mood onto the next person. Hey, I'm sure you've gone into restaurants before, and supermarkets where there's like a bad feeling, a bad mood, and you're like, wow, that's probably coming from the top. It filters down, right? How you treat your people is how they're going to treat their customer and their client and their athletes. It's as simple as that. The second one is emphasize culture as much as you can. I just spoke about that. Remind them what the culture is. Hey, we don't raise our voice here. Hey, we clean up afterwards when we leave the court. We help the coach clean up the cones after a practice. These small little things and reminders, right? Keep reminding your team of what the standards are. Number 3, take communication seriously. Okay, the biggest breakdown in relationships is communication. Or assumption. Or I thought she said that. Right? Be clear on communication. I think sometimes I can be a little bit annoying, and maybe Suva might agree, is I always like to confirm things, like double confirm. You know, even though the person says, yeah, I already told you today, and I might go, just making sure that it's at 10 o'clock. Because I'm doubly making sure I had the correct communication. Number 4, focus on the next play. Right? And this is a great lesson for athletes. Do you want to know what the difference between a great and a good athlete is? A great athlete is able to forget the last point quicker. A good athlete might have the skills and the ability and the competence, but they can't let go of the previous point as quick. This is what's made the best golfers in the world. It's what's made the best tennis players in the world, the best badminton players in the world. You name it, is they're able to move on quickly. They're able to focus on the next play. In fact, a player I worked with who reached 2 Grand Slam finals, the one he lost to Novak Djokovic, the one he lost to Rafael Nadal, not a bad achievement, reaching 2 Grand Slam finals where 3 guys dominated the Grand Slams for 15 years. And it had written on his racket, FF. What did that mean? Forget the last play, focus on the next. He just had the FF. So after a point, it would be, sometimes you'd look at it on your grip, or before you serve, you'd maybe look at your grip, whatever your routine was, and you'd see that and forget the last play, focus on the next, continually, being present. And number 5, set clear standards. Now there's 5 very, very simple standards that Coach K had. He didn't have 15, he didn't have 25, 50 things that people couldn't remember. Keep things simple. Remember what I said yesterday? A genius is able to make the complex simple. People don't remember lines and lines of things. Athletes don't remember like numerous instructions before going onto the court. Remember, just 2 things? An athlete can hold 2 things, no matter how intelligent they are. Okay? I've worked with athletes that went to Harvard, Stanford, MIT, these places. Same applies for them. Especially under pressure. Is when there's pressure involved, lower the information. 1 or 2 things is enough. That's the essence of a great coach. What are those 1 or 2 things you're going to give the athlete in that time? Okay? Number 3, clarity on roles and expectations. There needs to be clarity from day 1 to your coaches, your support staff, to parents, players. Okay? What their roles and expectations are. This is very important. Now, this is one area we could spend 45 minutes on, but we don't have that time, is that part of the problem of unhappy people in your team or your staff comes down to unmet expectations. I thought I was going to get a promotion. I thought that A and B I thought I was going to get a raise. I thought that, assumptions, not clear expectations. Okay? There needs to be the roles and expectations of the support staff, of the parents. Are the parents allowed to come? How close can the parents come to the court during practice? It's probably number the 1 pet peeves of coaches is having parents involved in the practice and coming onto the court. I know it's very, very much in tennis. It's a big challenge, where you've got people on the court and interfering with the coaching and so on and so forth. It's your responsibility, coaches, to set your boundaries and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. When I was able to set my boundaries as a coach and say, Parents, this is what happens during matches. Parents, this is what happens during practices. This is where you're allowed to come, and so on. And we had an agreement on that. There was no argument after that. I even had maybe one or two. I said, well, I don't agree with it. And I said, well, then I don't think this is going to work. Okay? And I understand that some of you work for bosses and managers where you don't have that ability, right? But that was something for me that changed everything in my coaching when I was able to coach with clarity and not have to be dealing with parents because they didn't know what the role and expectation or what they could say or what they couldn't say during practices, etc., etc. Especially if you work with the youth. The best academies and youth academies I've seen have clear expectations and roles and good relationships with the parents. When you work with a kid, you're working with a family. You're not just working with a kid. Okay? I also believe that parent education is one of the biggest factors in successful youth academies as well. So explaining to them the process of how we coach, how we develop, what to expect, what not to expect, how to behave, what to say on the car on the way home, what to talk about, what not to talk about. That's where the changes happen. Not enough coaches are giving that vital information to parents on how to behave and et cetera, et cetera. They look to you for the guidance. Okay? Expectations and selection, if you're working with national teams or you're working with high-level teams, for example, is having expectations and selections, what you need to do to be selected, behaviors, your effort, your protocols, time management, etc. Again, these revert back to standards. And how you do anything is how you do everything. You know what that means? It's basically the way you do the small things is the way you're going to do the big things. If you're a coach that just accepts the player, if you're doing court sprints, for example, and they're stepping half a foot short of the line and you're okay with that, you just leave that doesn't matter, then that's your standard right there. What you walk past, you endorse. I'll say it again. What you walk past, you endorse. Poor behavior that's not dealt with, you endorse. What does that show everybody else? That we can misbehave too, because you're okay with it. Okay? I'm telling you now, the most important thing, and there's so many important things in running successful youth development, is clear expectations, roles, and high discipline. The best teachers and coaches I ever had in my time were tough but fair. The fair part was you knew where the boundary was, where the borderline was, and fair they would explain to you why, either you're getting punished or you're getting dropped from the team or whatever it may be. You'd understand why. It was fair, but it was tough. You know what the two key things are to being a great coach and a great leader? Is being able to have respect and likability. Okay? Now, 25 years ago, it was a different kind of leadership. It was just pure respect, compliance. Do as I say. Today, to get a buy-in from your athletes, you need respect and likability. You can have respect, but not likability. And you can have likability, but not respect. Let me explain. Respect is about driving high standards, setting boundaries, high discipline. You'll get respect, compliance. But if you're not a nice person, you're unfair, you don't behave well as a leader or coach, you're not going to be liked. And then on the other hand, you can be liked. You can be that person that everybody enjoys being around, but you don't get respect because you don't have boundaries and you don't cut out bad behavior and you let things happen. Do you understand what I'm saying? To be a great coach and leader today, you need respect and likability, which means you need to have high discipline, high standards, and you need to be a likable person. Moving forward, you will be very successful in life if you're a likable person. Because people want to work with people they like, right? Doesn't matter what genius you are or what college you went to or how smart you are. If you're not a nice person, people don't want to work with you. Okay, so respect and likability are the two things. And like I said, you can be respected and not liked, and you can be liked and not respected, but to get both of them, that's where your key is right there. Jurgen Klopp, as we spoke about, the head coach of Liverpool, talking about expectations. So, quick story, football coach in England for Liverpool, took over the team in 2015. One of his most famous lines is, "It doesn't matter what people think of you when you come in. It's what people think of you when you leave. Think about that. It doesn't matter what people think about you when you come in. What matters is when you leave. What do people think of you? Did you make an impact? Did you make a difference? Or are they like, oh, good riddance. That person, goodbye. We don't want to see you again. He said, yes, everybody's excited I've come in, but what matters is judge me when I leave. What kind of person am I, and how did I leave this club? Okay? Anyway, long story short, he turned around the club. They won the Premiership. They won the Champions League, the two biggest prizes in world football, if you want to call it that. And one of the keys to his success, and I had this discussion with Jordan Henderson, the Liverpool captain, and he said that before you signed for Jurgen, there would be clear expectations of saying, you're a great player, and you could play for any other club, but here you might not get time. You might be sitting on the bench. You might not be selected. So I just want to make that clear before we start here, is that don't expect to be playing every week. Because I know you could play at any other club, Chelsea, anywhere. You could play anywhere. Man City, but here you might not play. And the key to his success was that he had a bench of 8 substitutes, 8 players that were happy to be on the bench, so to say. And there was team harmony. Why? Because there were clear expectations of, that's not fair, I thought I'd be playing. Now I'm sitting on the bench. And coaches, this is something for you as well when it comes to selection. Make your expectations clear of saying, yes, I have 10 players, but only 5 of you can go. So that means 5 of you won't play. The success and happiness of your environment will come down to how you handle those 5 players that are not playing this week, because they all want to play. If there's clear expectations from day one, that will be easier, because you didn't promise them anything. If you're saying to a player, come to us, you're going to play all the time, you're going to be our superstar player, you are on a path for disaster, because now they're expecting that they're going to be the number 1 pick every time they play. So clear expectations. Get the bad news out first before moving forward. Number 4, environment. Facilities need to be well maintained. Amenities, courts, open areas, recovery rooms, equipment, etc. Now, it doesn't take money to have a great culture. Let me get that clear. It's nice to have high-tech facilities and modern facilities, and you go to a Paris Saint-Germain, or you go to Roland Garros, the tennis facility, or wherever it may be, and you see these amazing facilities. That's not what your culture is about. To provide a high-performance sports environment, you need to make sure that you do have the right equipment, courts that are maintained, nets that are maintained. All these things are important for an athlete to perform. But you don't have to have state-of-the-art. I've heard a lot of coaches all this time say, yeah, they're successful because they have more money than us. Yes, money does solve a lot of problems, I'll be honest, but that's not where your culture comes from. I'm going to give you an example in a second. Structure, your layout, your athlete protocol, your coaching protocol, be very, very clear on these things. Your systems, your training philosophies, specific level groups, fundamentals, video tech, all these things are important today. Remember yesterday we spoke a little bit about AI, of having to come up to speed and understand video technology, and don't be that person that goes, yeah, well, that's not my department. I don't usually look at that. Coaches, be curious about everything. Be curious about what other people do in other departments of your facility. Become that person that's very, very, that understands the whole environment. Okay? So this is a coach I had the privilege to work with probably about over 10 years now. This is Olga Morozova. Olga Morozova can be called the Russian godmother of tennis. So Olga was one of the first athletes to come out of the Soviet Union. She reached 2 Grand Slam finals in 1974. She lost both to Chris Evert back in 1974. She went into coaching, and you might remember in the early 2000s there was a massive Russian revolution of tennis female players. Maria Sharapova, Elena Dementieva, who was an Olympic silver or gold medalist, Anastasia Maskina, Dinara Safina, Svetlana Kuznetsova, the list goes on. All of a sudden, there were like 7 or 8 of the top 10 women's tennis players were from Russia. And this is one woman that was responsible for that. I had the privilege to work with her with one of the players who won 2 Grand Slams at Roland Garros and US Open. And Olga was all about creating the right environment. Now, when I went to Russia to work with players, the facilities were not spectacular. It was especially in November and December in the off-season before Australia would come along, the first Grand Slam final. And we were trained in facilities where the courts were old, the paint was faded, there was holes in the windows. This was in Moscow. And I might have not had the money for the facilities, but Olga was about creating the right environment, the right people in the right roles, having things prepared properly, having the sessions lined up, all these type of things. Like I said, it doesn't take money to have a great culture. Like Toto Wolff said at the start of this presentation, it's about your attitude. Your culture is about your attitude, the small details. Okay? But Olga was also somebody that really made a connection with the players she worked with as well. The players that she developed adored her, right? She was that coach that's made an impact for them for the rest of their lives. But when it came to environment, Olga was very, very specific about how an environment would be set out, where your role was, everything. It was just very, very impressive to see. Number 5, create the buy-in. What does a buy-in mean? Maybe that's like a little bit of a corporate word. Is how do you get your players, or how do you get your staff and your fellow people to believe in you? Right? You've got this vision, you've got this way you want to go forward. How do you bring people along with you? How do you convince them this is the way we're going? Well, let me tell you this. People won't buy into your vision until they buy into you. I'll say that again. People won't buy into what you're selling or buying into your vision until they've bought into you, the person you are. Okay? So, first of all, to create a buy-in, you need credibility, a proven track record, experience, results. Okay? It's like, okay, before I work with you, what have you done? You might remember yesterday I said there's a lot of great marketing out there where people can put these products and sell them, but who is the person behind it? What have you done? You're selling a coaching course, but who have you worked with? What experience do you have? Do your research before these things. To create a buy-in, you need to care. Care stands for the connection. You need to connect people so they know that you care. Actively listen, respect, and encourage. That's when a person knows that you care, is when you're able to connect with them, when you're able to actively listen, when you respect, and when you're able to provide encouragement. Okay? If you're able to get those 4 things, you're going to get more buy-in from the people that you work with or that you coach. And the third one, trust. Trust takes time. You can't fast-track trust. It takes relationships, the building of relationships. It takes understanding others. We all want to be understood instead of understand others. The sharing of accolades. Who trusts a leader or trusts somebody that takes all the wins and victories for themselves, but then place the blame on others when things go wrong? Nobody wants to work or trust somebody like that. And then truthfulness. Nobody buys into someone that doesn't tell the truth. If you've got hard news or hard conversations with your team, or you need to let go of a player or let go of a fellow staff person, the best way to have hard conversations is to be direct and to be honest. Okay? People ask me that all the time. How do I have a hard conversation with a player that's not playing, or that we're dropping them from the national team or whatever? I said, is be honest. Be honest. It's going to hurt. It's not going to be enjoyable. Be honest, be truthful. They will respect you for it later. It might hurt right now. They can't understand why they've been dropped. Okay? Number 6, communication. Implement effective communication strategies. So, if you're working with youth, how are they communicating best? Is it WhatsApp? Is it through TikTok? Is it through text? Is it through Instagram? What's the best method to reach them? I've found that WhatsApp used to work, but I don't get as quick a reply from teenagers or young athletes that I'm working with as quick anymore. So I have to find out what's the best communication strategies for us. What's the best communication strategies with your fellow coaches and your team? What's the best communication strategies with the parents that are involved in your program? Have structured meetings. Now people go, oh, I hate meetings. Okay? But I find the best cultures I've worked with and been around have short daily meetings, if that's possible. Of this is what happened yesterday, this is what we need to work on today, and maybe one or two housekeeping things. The key to great meetings is, listen to me, is they start on time, they're short, and they finish on time. 3 simple things. They start on time, they're to the point, they're short, and they finish on time. That's your 3 keys to great meetings. Because people don't have time to sit through meetings that are long. We all have things to do. We're all busy, correct? Okay? And then also, what's your standard when you're allowing people to come into the meeting at 2 minutes past 9? What does that tell everybody else? Well, we can be late and we can still go to the meeting, so it's okay. No, you start at 9. And those that came late, they have to find out from the rest of what happened. Simple. Great communication leads to better connections. Better connection leads to better collaboration. Those are your 3 C's of getting collaboration from a team. Better communication leads to better connection, because now we've spoken, I've got to know you, I like you, I understand how you work. I think we're going to collaborate well. Simple 3 C's. And number 7, the last one. My bad, sorry. Community is important. I believe we all have this responsibility, no matter what city, village, town, where you come from, is growing the sport, building the community and future generations, and improving mental wellness and well-being. Those are key things that I know that BWF are big on as well. Creating excellence in a culture. Find people who are teachable, collaborate well, and growth-minded. Yes, competence is important, but character is even more important. Excellence needs to be reminded, recognized, and rewarded. When you see somebody doing something good, tell them, thank you, I saw that you picked up that bit of rubbish or trash on the floor, even though it wasn't yours. That's how we do things here. Okay? Not like, I didn't drop it, it's not mine, it's not my problem. Or there's a towel in the locker room, the change room. Pick it up, put it to where it needs to be. That's what a great culture is about. And then excellence requires continuous improvement every single day. Finally, I'd like to tell you the story of the green couch. And it's going to be a quick one because I know we're a little pushed for time. So I was speaking to the kit man, and it's a football story as well, of a certain second division, let's call it soccer team, football team. And he had just come from one of the biggest teams in the Premiership. Okay, so now he's working for a division down. And he's the kit man, so he deals with washing all the team's kit, the laundry. He works in downstairs with the washing machines and so on and so forth. And I said to him, what's the difference between working at the club you're at now and the club that's top of the championship or top of the Premiership team? What's the difference? You know what he said to me? It's standards. He said, at the club I'm at the moment, they've got enough money, they're good enough, but he said, they've got this old green couch that they never change. And when I went there, I said to them, you know, that couch doesn't look so great in the reception. To which the CEO said, well, it's fine, it's a couch. It's been here for 15 years. And then he said, when we go out of the entrance to the players' entrance, he said, the trash is always left there in the bags for them to collect. And he said, every time the players walk past these trash bags, these rubbish bags on the way to their practice. And he said, you know what, Allistair, this is what I've learned. It doesn't take money, it's not the size of the club. He says it's this, is that when you see rubbish, you act rubbish, you play rubbish. When you see rubbish, you act rubbish, you play rubbish. Right? That couch there could maybe cost 200 euros or 200 pounds to recover. That trash could be moved to somewhere else. But that's a place that's not driving high standards. It's stuck on old beliefs. Well, that's the way we've always done things here, so that's the way we do it. Okay, so culture is an attitude. The goal is to create an environment where everyone pursues excellence in everything they do. This is the kind of mindset each team member should be adopting. Thank you. Do we have any time for questions? Let's see up there. Yeah. Okay. Anybody? Unfortunately, today the first one doesn't get the book. I knew you guys would be onto it. There's a question, though. If you were listening at the beginning, you got a chance. Yes.
Yes, you were talking about the good culture and how can you start changing the bad culture, like from the start. What could be the key points?
People. Simple things of, do people look like they want to be there?
Yeah, okay. Let's say I have it. So we understand we have a bad culture. What next? Invite you?
It starts, yes. The funny thing is when I get invited to cultures, it's either very, very good or it's like at the brink of like complete breakdown. It's never in between. So what I'm saying is I never get invited somewhere where it's maintenance of how do we keep this going, right? You know what I'm saying? They either have a great one or a very bad one. But it starts with leadership. You can have a very, very poor leader, and then I have a team where I talk and you're all nodding and going, yeah, that's right, but it starts at the top. So one of the very first slides was it all starts with your leadership. If they're not willing to change, then it's almost impossible for the rest to change.
Okay, but we have leader, then we just have to follow the steps, or maybe there is like some of them that are a bit more important.
You're not going to agree with all, let's just say they had 10 standards. It's like a relationship that the 3 most important ones that matter to you should be the ones that are there, right? But I know this is a very simple answer. If you don't like where you are, leave. You're not a tree. You can leave. And I know that sounds very like, oh my goodness, you know, yes, we have bills to pay, mortgages, it's maybe not that simple, but why stay somewhere where you don't agree with the way the leadership is? You can't see things changing in the future. Why stay there? You know, it's like hitting your head against a brick wall. Nothing's going to change. You can do as much as you can and influence and be that person you should be, but if it's not starting at the top, you have a very bad ripple down effect, okay? I'm going to say this, and it's going to be on camera as well, but you will look at, I apologize, it's another soccer example, Manchester United, is that you can change the coach, you can change the players, you can change everything, but if it's still not right at the top, you're still going to have the same problems. So, next question. You don't get a fourth. Thank you for your question.
Okay, no? Okay. Hi. It's just a question about your speech and the content. Will that be available afterwards? Are you able to share that?
Yep, we can do that. Yep. Had to get a nod of approval there from John. So how much time do we have? One more? 2 more? One more? One more question. And then we'll have the grand prize at the end.
Just a follow-up to the question from the lady. What do you think then the leadership has to define the culture and the rest of the club basically has to follow through, or should leadership sets the tone of the direction of the club,
yes,
and then the rest have to follow through, or can it be a collaborative, or let's look where everybody wants to go?
Depends what your structure is. If you have one leader, then they should propose what the leadership style will be, the standards, etc. If you have leadership team, then they should collectively decide of what the standard should be, for example, because leadership without collaboration is basically rules. These are my 10 rules. This is what you're going to say. And some of you go, yeah, well, I don't really buy into those rules. Let's discuss the standards of what this team should look like. And we collaborate with the standards and we build it ourselves. You're going to have more of a buy-in, right? Because why? Because you were involved in it. But it's a question because there's so many different ways that places are structured. You know, one leader, 3 leaders. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But when you can have a collective agreement on standards, that's when you have everybody saying, yeah, I'm part of that because I also decided on that. So, good question. Thank you. So, put your hand up quickly or say me or something so there's no confusion. This is the question for 7 Keys to Being a Great Coach, is how many championships did Mercedes win in a row? Yes. Correct. Man in the blue at the back. Congratulations. I'll come see me afterwards. Thank you.
Great. Thank you again, Allistair.
Thank you. I'd just like to say one more thing. These two ladies over here, the interpreters, deserve a round of applause, please. I mean, that's a tough job. Thank you so much.
So, one thing that struck me about Allistair is he definitely practices what he preaches. He was the first to open the conference yesterday, and he's closing the conference today, but he's actually been in the venue for the 2 days. He's been observing the presentations, he's been learning, evolving, developing, as he's mentioning that we should all consider doing. So I think that's fantastic. We would like to present a small token of appreciation. Allistair, I'll invite Nora Perry, Chair of Development, back to the stage to present that to you now.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is lovely. It's my second one. So, good.